Hi there, welcome back to the Nourishing Roots channel. I'm Marissa Pendlebury and here is where I share all my experiences, advice, tips and tricks on eating disorder recovery. In this week's video I really want to talk about being triggered by other YouTube or social media accounts like Instagram in your recovery. And I think this is a really important but also a bit of a controversial topic to talk about right now. Because as you may have noticed, there's a really positive shift happening at the moment where there's a lot of people setting up recovery accounts related to eating disorder recovery, whether that be YouTube channels, Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts and Facebook groups. And for a large proportion of those individuals, it's absolutely great and they're so inspirational and it's really, really positive to see. And it also offers, a window of hope for other people who may be struggling out there or starting off in recovery too. However, what I have come across and what you may have come across is accounts that can feel good to watch, but they are actually having a damaging effect on your recovery journey. So what I mean by that is accounts that may be around eating, around what I eat in a day videos, people taking snapshots of all the food that they eat or supposedly the food that they eat. Or you might be following someone on YouTube who seems really inspirational, but at the same time you find yourself negatively comparing yourself to what they look like, how big they are, how small they are. And instead of actually pushing you forward in recovery, it gets you in non-self-compassionate mode and starting to beat yourself up. And let's be honest, we've all probably watched What I Eat in a Day videos. And while I initially found those really helpful, and in some instances still do, a lot of those accounts are actually not very helpful at all, because what they do is show a very one-size-fits-all model of what we should be eating. And I wouldn't really recommend that for anybody, even if you find that someone looks like they're eating a large amount of food. That's not necessarily what you would enjoy eating, or it's not necessarily the case that just because a YouTuber is following a vegan, vegetarian or plant-based diet, that doesn't mean that you have to do your recovery in that way. Now I'm sure the recovery accounts and YouTube videos that promote things like this, or lifestyles when they promote their recovery, I don't think they're actually intentionally trying to cause harm. I genuinely feel that they think that their way is the right way forward. And also they're probably intentionally just putting it out there for themselves and to help other people. And I've done this, like when I started my YouTube channel years ago, I was actually vegan myself, and it sounds really cringy to say because I used to honestly believe 110% that veganism is what cured my eating disorder, and it wasn't. I just exchanged one disorder for the next, and I've done another video about this which I'll try and put in the comments below, or I'll make another video about it. But the point I'm trying to make is sometimes we do things that we feel are intentionally good but are actually not really very helpful. And this might be the case if you're following someone on Instagram or YouTube and you find them really inspirational, but likelihood is you don't really know what's going on behind closed doors, whether that person's still restricting or compensating. But it's so easy to take on board the information in that video or what we see on Instagram and say, okay, I'll do that, or I'll try that because that looks like it'll be relevant for me. And while it may be relevant for you in order to maybe increase your calorie intake or try new foods, which is brilliant, it might not be very helpful for you to go to the gym or fill up your plate with vegetables or restrict yourself to certain types of food. And unfortunately this is the type of thing I'm seeing really regularly now. And I think it might be because there's been a massive influx in people making recovery accounts, making things on YouTube out of the goodness of their own hearts, because most of us do want to support other people. However, if you're still struggling, whether you're a creator or a watcher of social media, then you might actually have a little bit of competitive nature inside yourself. So for me, I remember looking at YouTube videos and posts on Instagram and thinking, oh, that person ate that much, or I'm going to try and eat a little bit less. Or stupidly, I even watched accounts that weren't recovery related but were still What I Eat in a Day videos, based on people who went to the gym 7 times a day, or they were on some kind of fasting diet or keto diet or a model's diet. And I purely watched those because I was obsessed with food and weight and body image. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it's good to watch things that are going to help me eat normally. But when I really questioned myself, I wasn't really eating normally at all, or trying to be normal. I was trying to live in the safe zone of my eating disorder and trying to find ways of still being able to live a life, but still allowing myself to have that little snippet of restriction still there for safety. And that's why I feel I clung on to veganism and things related to a plant-based lifestyle, because I honestly thought, healthy eating had cured me, when really I'd just exchanged it for another obsession, and it was so easily hidden from the rest of my family and friends and other people, and it didn't allow me to ask for help. And this brings me onto another key point, which is to ask yourself, are you following accounts that are actually making you feel worse about yourself or more restrictive in your lifestyle than positive, or being able to live your life in abundance? And I honestly think that a lot of people suffer from this, and it's not just me or people I've spoke to recently, but we can follow anyone and everybody these days, and it's so hard to unfollow people because we don't want to look like we're ostracising someone or saying we don't like their content. And sometimes people are very inspiring, but that 1% of the time they may post an image of like their abs, or a really, really healthy breakfast that they had, or they might state a fact that they'd skipped a meal, and instantly our brain's going, alert, alert, I need to do that in order to feel like a good person. And it's so hard because there's so much social media around these days that you can't necessarily escape it. And if Instagram is a healthy channel for you to be on, as is YouTube, it can be really difficult to separate what is good for your mind and what isn't so good for your mind. So what I want to say as well is that not necessarily is the case that certain YouTube channels or people online are bad. It's just actually up to yourself to decide whether that content is triggering for you. And this is something I was speaking to someone online very recently about, a lovely lady who was saying that actually, although some content can be triggering, it might not be triggering for someone else, and it doesn't mean that account is bad. But we as individuals in recovery need to work out what is triggering for us. Like, if that's what I eat in a day videos and you're actually finding them doing more harm than good, then it's up to us to say, I'm not going to click on that clickbait, as tempting as it may be, because I still have an obsession with food. I'm not going to trawl through what other people in recovery are eating in a day, or someone who's following a vegan or plant-based diet is eating in a day, or even 10,000 calorie a day challenges. Like, they may be helpful in some way, but if they're also making you feel bad, or in some way keeping your obsession up with food and weight and body image, then what is it really doing to your mental state? Is it continuing to warp yourself in a world that's based around food, objectifying the body, and worrying about things that actually do not matter? Because I know for me that was exactly the case. And for a long time, I couldn't see the wood for the trees. I thought that I was doing something genuinely good and following channels that I thought were inspirational. But now what I've done is actually sifted through the ones that make me feel good and really inspired to recover. And there's very few I can say that about quite genuinely. One you might know is called Megsy Recovery. And for me, that's not triggering personally. I mean, some other channels may be for you, but I find that she really covers recovery topics in an authentic way, and it's not about how much she's eating, how many calories she's eating, and it's just really honest and open, and it's not about what I eat in a day. Although there may be snippets of showing her eating food, it's not about, competing who can eat the least or eat as many fair foods, or, eat a certain amount of calories a day in order to achieve a certain goal. And again, while those videos may be helpful for some people, they're just not for a large majority. So this is a video really to say to content creators and us watchers that we have to take responsibility over the things that we watch and consume. And just like we probably wouldn't do well if we ate fat-free foods or bought low-calorie items due to it triggering our brain, it's also not good to feed the mind with content that's either about restriction, struggling too much in recovery, relapsing, counting calories, going towards veganism, because these things are not really helpful in terms of getting your life back. Yes, it might be good for, altering your diet and food intake in some sense, But if it's actually making you eat less or focus more on food, then it's probably doing your mind more harm than good. And for me, there's videos on YouTube now that I like to watch that are not eating disorder recovery related. They're purely about creative things like lettering or art, or they might be to do with interior design. And on that note, it's good advice for me to give you right now is just expand your interests beyond food, because that allows you to get your life a little bit back more and to take the focus away from food and the body, which unfortunately these recovery accounts can make the focus even bigger, which is not what we want to do. It's good to follow some people who are inspiring and really uplift you and boost your morale, but when that starts to dip and drain your energy and that's all you're watching and revolving your life around, your whole identity becomes eating disorder or eating disordered person in recovery. And I don't want to just be someone with an eating disorder in recovery. I want to be, someone who's recovering, but also someone who is creative, is interested in hobbies, is interested in music and art and all sorts of different things going on, and films and Disney. And I don't want my life to revolve around counting calories, watching what someone else eats in a day and gaining recipe inspiration. Because again, while it's good, it's a small, minute part of the life you probably want to lead in terms of getting your full recovery back and your full life back. So I could talk for hours on this, and I don't want to because I'll bore the life out of you. But what I do want to say is just from this video, if you can take home some key points about maybe following people who you find inspiring and just turning a blind eye or unfollowing the people who don't inspire you or they may trigger you some percent of the time. It's okay to unfollow someone, and it's okay to follow things that aren't necessarily aligned with what you're currently interested in. Just maybe expand your horizons a little bit. So instead of watching a what I eat in a day video, I recently watched a how I design my apartment video, or how to care for cacti plants, because I'm so hipster these days. I'm not really. And things like that inspire me, as well as, how to make a good cup of coffee, where to get great chocolate from, how to, go outdoors more but in nature and not obsessively walk. Things that really light me up inside, rather than thinking, okay, what am I going to eat today or tomorrow? Before I sum up this video, I just want to say as well, you deserve to fully recover. And if your life wants to be like that, or you want your life to be like that, probably what I eat in a day videos or following other people's plant-based vegan lifestyle isn't the best for you. Even if you maybe want to take up that ethical choice in the future, now as someone with an eating disorder that's actively in recovery, I probably wouldn't recommend that at all. So if you've hopefully gained something from this video, I'm really happy for you. If not, that's okay as well. And I just want you to go out there and live your best life, whether you follow people on social media or not. Just really take ownership of what's triggering and what's not, and follow things that light up your heart and not just your plate or your obsession with food. So on that final note, have a great week, and I will hopefully make another video very soon for you guys. You can also find more information at www.nourishingroots.com, or follow me on Instagram at nourishing_roots, where I mainly post pictures of coffee and cake and just being crazy on me. See ya!